This is the Mason City Toros podcast. I am Joe Malone. Joining me, the head coach of the Mason City Toros, Nick Bruneteau. Coach Bruneteau, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
So it was a split this weekend for the Toros, taking on the Alexandria Blizzard at the Mason City Arena. Let's start with Saturday night. Was a good night for the Toros, picking up 3 goals in the first period. Talk to me about what was going right out of the gate for the Toros.
I think we just came ready to play, and that's kind of been one of the big things for us all year. Is we have to be better at stringing together 60 minutes, but that first period is always critical, and you saw the difference between Saturday and Sunday. But when you get scoring chances, you have to put them away too, and we did a really good job of that, especially with that top line in that first period, and kind of rolled from there. And it gave us some breathing room for guys to play a little bit, more comfortable than maybe if it was a tight game, which I think led to a little bit more chances Saturday, and then Sunday a little bit the reverse for us.
Alexandria was able to sneak back in and kind of close the gap a little bit in that game on Saturday before Carter Newpower would score a shorthanded goal, his second of the game, for the final goal of the second period, making it 4-2, and then a little bit of breathing room for Cullen Hogan that Cullen provided for the team with the goal in the third. What was the message to the team after the score got to 3-2?
Well, it's just a matter of stringing together a full 60, and I think we kind of took our foot off the gas there in that second period, and Noops had a real nice goal there, shorthanded, to kind of get the guys going and get the bench all fired up, and we kind of rolled from there. But for about 10 to 15 minutes there in the second, we were just kind of going through the motions. I felt a little bit, and I think that's going to happen throughout the course of the year at times in a 47 game season. So it's just more, how can we wrestle that momentum back as quick as possible?
Yeah. Now Sunday, that was the problem, was trying to get the momentum on the Toros side, because Alexandria starts the game, shorthanded goal in the first, power play goal in the first, power play goal in the second. And could you tell that something was a little bit different with the way the team was feeling or playing, or what does that look like? What does that feel like from your perspective on the bench?
Well, I didn't think we came ready to play that game, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where we have to be more consistent with putting together 60-minute games, and then once you get to that point, where you're kind of from behind and it turns into a little bit of a special teams games, it makes it even more difficult for guys to get into it when you're not in a rhythm. When special teams occur, it breaks up the flow of the lines going. And I think that was a big factor. And I think myself as a coach have to do a much better job of, getting guys back in that rhythm. And, not everyone plays penalty kill and not everybody plays power play. So when you go through those, periods of, 10 penalties, some guys are only getting a couple shifts and they might go 10 minutes without one and then they get back out there. So I think that was another big factor in that game is there was no rhythm. There didn't really ever seem to be that flow. And then by the time the third period came around, it was a little bit too late for us.
Now, is it the same sort of thing, I think, when you have a player sitting for a long time, kind of like a pitcher in baseball where they try and keep their arm warm? Do you got to worry about guys' legs getting cold? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think at this level, fortunately, all these guys are young enough where it's not as big of a factor. I've talked with some of our guys about utilizing the media timeouts if they ever go through that stretch, and that's something I used to do when I was in that situation is, hey, there's a media timeout. We got a minute here. Go buzz around the rink. Get your legs. If maybe you're going to go soon, but maybe you haven't gone for a while, so maybe you got to kind of get that going. So that's something we've talked to some of our guys about, especially the guys that are in those roles where maybe the game could go one way or another, and that might mean they don't play as much. So that's something that's talked about, but it's always a tough spot. Like, it's never an easy spot for those guys, and I think most of our guys have handled it well. And especially you look at a guy like, not to single out guys, but single out a guy, Zach Giblin. He's been so good for us on the bench, and he's never going to complain. He's always going to support his teammates. And I wish some of our guys had a little bit more of him in themselves, because he is a perfect model of what a teammate should be. So there is obviously positives even in those games where you lose, and seeing a guy like that support his teammates made me and Marquise feel a little bit better too.
It's always good to look for positives. You don't want everything to be just negative the whole way around. Now, at the end of the game on Sunday, things got, a lot of shenanigans started taking place, if I can bust out that term there. Full of penalties, full of frustration. What was that just frustration in performance, or what was that happened at the end of that game there?
Well, I think it was a combination of both. I think our guys were frustrated that they didn't come ready, and it wasn't the performance anybody expected or wanted from our guys. But I think part of it too was the officiating, and that's not something we ever need to worry about. But you give a penalty shot, a 5-on-3, and then you openly admit that they were the wrong calls. I don't think that's ever going to calm the bench down. So I think it was a combination of when you get those. Even if it was the reverse and we were the team getting all the power plays, it throws our guys out of rhythm as well, just as it would their team. And I think when you combo that up with losing the game and the frustration kind of boiled over. Now, luckily, we were fortunate enough in that nobody's did anything where they're going to miss games down the road. But that's just another learning example for us where we can't lose our head, and we need everybody for every game. So. Can't win them all, and we have to be mature enough to realize that we're better off with everybody for the next game than a brief freak out for 5 seconds. Yeah,
that cost you a game or 2 or 3. I was going to ask about that because from the fans' perspective, a number of players were pulled off the ice, but that wasn't game misconducts, that wasn't ejections, that was just you got a 2 and a 10, and there's 30 seconds left. Get out of here.
Yeah, and I think at that point they were trying to get control of the game, but. I think probably both staffs would agree that at that point it's a little too late. So hopefully we don't have too many of those scenarios down the line here.
Now, next up for the Toros, it's a road trip up north to Breezy Point, taking on the Minnesota Loons Friday and Saturday night. Toros had good success against the Loons earlier this season, putting up an 8-goal game, putting up a 10-goal game. What do you look to get out of this series this weekend?
Well, hopefully 2 wins, but I think the thing with the Loons is they're a young team, and based on their past struggles, they have nothing to lose. And I think when you combo those 2 things together, it always can create a dangerous weekend. So we're obviously gonna have to make sure we get back on track here. And if you look, like they beat New Ulm last week, and they're starting to get a little bit more of that jam back to their game. So. I think it'll be a good weekend for us. It'll be a good road test. It's our furthest road trip of the year, so that obviously plays into it as well. So hopefully this week we'll continue to have a good week of practice, and that'll translate into 2 complete 60-minute games.
And then next home game for the Toros will be Friday night, I believe, Black Friday, back here at the Mason City Arena. So special holiday weekend filled with hockey here in Mason City. Looking forward to that. Coach Nick Bruneteau of the Mason City Toros, thanks for the opportunity to talk.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
This is the Mason City Toros podcast.